The Leafs just pulled off an absolute heist, and following what has been a crazy day of signings for the Toronto Maple Leafs, they managed to yet again rob the NHL. But not only that, we have multiple more updates surrounding what their plans are as free agency opens tomorrow. We're going to break all that down in this episode, folks. Before we get into it all, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, you guys have been unbelievable with the support. And if you're a part of the 71% who aren't subscribed, make sure that subscribe button. You guys have been beast ears. Among all of this crazy Mitch Marner news with the trade, all these different things, Steven Lorentz and the Leafs have agreed to a deal, and the Leafs pulled off another heist, a third time. Can you, a fourth time if you want to go that far? But man, oh man, is this exciting. And of course, all the emotions kind of took over for the Mitch Marner trade, because that's obviously the bigger deal, of course, and Nicholas Waugh getting him back. But lost in all that was Steven Lorentz, and we covered it briefly in our video earlier about the Mitch Marner trade, but he signed a 3-year deal worth $1.35 million per year. This is an absolute steal for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They have now set themselves up, and of course, Brad Marchand is signed elsewhere with the Florida Panthers again, re-signed. The Leafs have set themselves up to really prepare themselves for what's going to be a crucial day tomorrow with signings. They have cap space, and they have a lot of their holes filled. An absolute masterclass from Brad Treliving, and once again, he's able to pull off something that, I thought it was going to be a lot more than this, and they have him now for 3 more years.
And this is great because, even if it was a 1-year deal at 1.3 million, I don't want to say it's necessarily a steal because he's not a top line player or anything like that, but it is a steal in terms of the salary cap is going up and you have him for the next 3 years. So he could have signed for a little bit more for a guy, that brings a lot to a lineup. He can play on the penalty kill. And I love Steven Lorentz. I would have been actually quite upset if they didn't re-sign Steven Lorentz for everything that he brought to the lineup last year. The physicality, his motor, the fact that, again, that he can play on the penalty kill. And with Mitch Marner gone, he's probably going to be playing a lot of time on the penalty kill, but he was good on the penalty kill, block shots, all of the things that you want, right? You can see here in terms of the advanced analytics, not offering much offensively, but man, once in a while, yeah, you don't need it, but once in a while he will, right? Like we saw it last year, like you'll pop out a goal randomly every 20 games or something like that, and it's a highlight reel goal every single time. So it's awesome that he's back. I think that, again, the contract is fantastic to get him for 3 years at that dollar amount. We're going to get into some quotes from Steven Lorentz as well, because, he wanted to come back. He didn't want to go anywhere else, and I'd love to hear that stuff. So that's awesome. And again, I think it's a great contract, and it sounds like you said, they have a lot more up their sleeve. They have a ton of cap space. Brad Marchand is off the table at this point, so they can weaponize a lot of this cap space in free agency to go get maybe another top winger if they want to play the left side. Bobby McMahon, a lot of people forget about him. How does he fit into the equation, right? So they can go get another top winger, or they can get some more depth, right? I don't think Calle Yarncroke and David Kampf are long for this team either. So I feel like they're going to go out, get some more depth as well. And, what they were talking about during the season and in the playoffs about, everybody, all the passengers comment from Austin Matthews, and everybody needs to be on board. And it's not just Mitch Marner. No, it's not just Mitch Marner, but the reason you needed him to produce is because he's taking up so much money, and everyone else, I get it, but the other two are signed and they're here. Mitch Marner's gone now, but taking up so much money that you can use on some depth and guys that actually maybe could make a difference down there in the lineup. And that goes, again, for Austin Matthews and William Nylander and John Tavares, who did take, a little bit less to stay here. So things look like they're starting to change, but this is very exciting. They're signing more of their depth. The team is starting to take shape a little bit. They have Michelli as well. It's pretty exciting, and we're only heading into free agency now.
Yeah, and it's not a steal or heist in the sense of the word of he's going to put up 20 goals, but given the big picture here, I think this is going to end up being one of the most crucial moves that they have made, especially after tomorrow with free agency. And you look at some of the other $1.35 million contracts, solid players, and even, Ryan Reeves' contract didn't age great, whatever it ends up being. You look at what he is here. He's a fourth liner, and that is exactly what he's getting paid to do. Fantastic in the PK. You mentioned it. Fantastic defensively. And even though the advanced analytics don't favor him offensively, we've seen it. He had some very clutch goals, multiple game winners. He is just the perfect Craig Berube player, and it's something that is not only exciting for me because we both of us love Steven Lorentz, covered him all last year. It's just, I'm more excited about how this team now can be constructed going forward. There's been multiple reports they're going to try to land, and this was, of course, earlier today before Brad Marchand signed elsewhere. A report from David Podnada that the Leafs were going to try to land a top 6 winger via trade, and that makes even more sense now that Brad Marchand's off the market. It's easier to make that work with the cap you're saving. You mentioned Calle Yarncroke and David Kampf. Yarncroke, I think, is a good chance to be gone. That saves more salary. Pontus Holmberg gone. That saves more salary. And having guys like Lorentz and Pezzetta, who we'll dive into now in a minute, at like $850K or lower as the fourth line Rotation forwards is Florida-esque and fine by me. Money goes to the top 9. And that's ultimately what's going to be happening here. Let me know if you're ecstatic about this. I think I literally think this is going to be looked at even in a year or two as just a fleece, because let's also not forget contracts and the cap is going up. Like, this is nothing. This is really literally nothing. And there was some rumblings, I believe, that we covered that, Lorentz might end up getting like $2 million a year. There was rumblings and rumors about him getting a pay increase to where can the Leafs retain him? They did. And now they're focused in as well, reportedly, on Michael Pezzetta, who 0 points in 25 games last year. Doesn't excite me too much. Former Montreal Canadian last season. However, I can see the vision as to why they're being linked with players like this if they're trying to save as much in the bottom 6 as possible, specifically the bottom 3, and then really load the top 6. And you have Nicholas Watt and Scott Laughton, who are steady on that third line, who could play second line for a lot of teams in the NHL. So it makes a ton of sense here on the Michael Pezzetta front. Don't love it, but I can see the vision.
I don't like the Michael Pezzetta thing either, right? I'm not totally in love with it. I am totally in love with, Steve Lorentz and what he brings to the lineup and the contract that he signed. And like you mentioned, the salary cap's going up. There are rumors right now, maybe even up to $12 million next summer, right? So, to sign for $1 million, that's nothing. And for the next 3 years, that's awesome, right? And like you said, Florida is filling in the bottom of their lineup with a lot of guys that make under $1 million or $1 million, just over $1 million, right? So the Leafs are kind of, doing something similar in that way. And of course, you don't want all the money to go to your top 6 players. We've kind of seen what that happens, but they're spreading it more evenly throughout the lineup through the defense, and we've seen that over the course of the past year as well. But in terms of Michael Pezzetta, that one's an interesting one. This is a guy that doesn't bring scoring whatsoever to a lineup, but I kind of like it because he could be a depth player, right? Like a guy that isn't going to play every single night, but you can put him in. We know that he loves to fight, right? He's been in a couple fights against the Leafs, so he has a motor, all of those things, right? So you can put him in there every now and then, depending on the team you're playing, stuff like that. So it could get very interesting here. I don't think he's going to make that much. It's going to be a league minimum contract, maybe $1 million, something like that. And again, he's not going to play every game. He's going to come in, drop the gloves, stuff like that, bring a physical presence, right? Which I think can be okay, but he offers you essentially nothing offensively and also not, too much defensively. Like he doesn't have a defined role or anything like that, besides being maybe an enforcer, right? The new age enforcer, I guess, at this point. He is very physical though, right? So I don't hate it, but he's not a guy who's going to play every day in the lineup. And I just don't see it, in terms of giving him a lot of money. It makes no sense. He's going to make league minimum. So could make some sense in terms of just having a body on the roster and, the waiting in the weeds kind of thing. But yeah, I don't necessarily love that. I think you still need guys that can play, can put the puck in the net, but play on the edge as well. And I think Lorentz does that super well.
Yeah, speaking of Lorentz, before I wrap up, he spoke out on signing with the Leafs. There was no doubt in my mind that I'd be back in, or there was doubt in my mind that I'd be back in Toronto again. I'm assuming this means there was no doubt. I assume that's what he meant by that, but
Probably.
Either way, maybe he's saying that there was doubt in my mind that I'd be back in Toronto again. Let us know down below in the comments what your thoughts are on that. But he also spoke out on Mitch Marner, and this is the interesting thing. All I know is that he was an incredible teammate, and he said he's not sure what happened with the trade. Says Marner is the ultimate competitor and a better guy off the ice. So putting a bow on that, he also said he's excited to bring a cup to Toronto. We're excited to cover a cup to Toronto. I'm all the way back in. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know down below what your thoughts are. I'll have another video for you guys soon.